There are nights so still that when you look up at the sky, it feels as if the universe itself is breathing. Not through sound, but through light. A light that began its journey long before time even had a name. It doesn't rush, it doesn't hurry. It simply drifts, quietly, across billions of years and untouched stretches of space, carrying with it the story of beginnings. The James Webb is not merely a telescope. It is humanity's ear, lifted into the heavens to listen for the faintest echoes of existence. Every beam of light Webb captures is a message sent from the distant past, from an age before stars, before planets, before even the definition of life itself. It is the language of time, written in energy. In the stillness of space, Webb floats between shadow and glow, between the blue turning Earth and the endless black beyond. Every subtle tilt of its mirrors, every minute calibration, feels like a shared breath between humankind and the cosmos, a conversation in light instead of words. When Webb looks far into the distance, it is, in truth, looking into the past. Not the past of a civilization or a world, but the past of everything, the childhood of the universe itself. The light it records began traveling when time had barely started to flow, when nothing yet had form but the trembling of primordial energy. Each image Webb sends back is a portrait of time. Every faint dot is a galaxy, home to hundreds of billions of stars, and each star may be warming worlds yet unnamed. When we gaze at those tiny lights, we are looking into the eyes of the past, seeing the reflection of the very beginning. And yet that light, however beautiful, is but a remnant. By the time it reaches us, its source may have long since vanished. We are looking at what once was a memory of the cosmos, preserved in radiance, that makes every act of observation both scientific and meditative, a moment of communion with what has been. Staring deep into space, one realizes a paradox. The farther we look, the earlier we see. The deeper we peer, the closer we come to the origin. Distance and time cease to be separate things. They merge into one vast fabric that Einstein called space-time, a great cosmic cloth stretched and curved by matter and energy, weaving the rhythm of the universe itself. So when Webb gazes into the farthest reaches, it is not just peering through space. It is peering through the very essence of time. Each photon it receives is a fragment of history, a returning memory of the universe. And in that moment, as we behold the captured light, we stand at the intersection of two timelines, one belonging to the cosmos and one to humankind. There is a special kind of silence in that realization, one that only those who have truly stared at the night sky can understand. It is the silence when looking ceases to be about discovery and becomes about feeling, when all scientific questions fade and only the sense remains that somehow we are part of that whisper. If the universe is a symphony, then light is its first note. It began the melody we still hear today, resonating through billions of years and billions of worlds. And now, after an endless journey, that song reverberates in our minds, a primal call from the dawn of creation. When that light touches the golden mirrors of the James Webb, it is not merely a scientific event. It is a moment of cosmic memory. Light has found its listener. After billions of years adrift in darkness, it is seen, understood, transformed into awareness. In that instant, we and the universe are no longer separate. We coexist in a single gaze. And perhaps somewhere in another galaxy, another being is doing the same. Looking up at their sky, listening to light from afar, asking the same questions we do. Who am I and what began all this? Perhaps, on the other side of space, they too are looking toward us, unaware that we are also looking toward them. And somewhere, in the invisible meeting point between those two lines of sight, between those two streams of light, the universe folds into a perfect circle. In that moment, the idea of near or far dissolves. All distance becomes an illusion. Only consciousness remains, the one thing deep enough to connect the scattered fragments of reality. Perhaps the true boundary of the universe is not where light ends, but where awareness begins. And perhaps the true beginning of time is not buried in a distant past, but exists here, in this very moment, when we realize we are hearing that whisper. If the universe has no beginning, perhaps it has never ended. It only continues to speak, to tell, to flow through us. A single unbroken breath stretching from the dawn to eternity. We need only listen, for in every ray of light that falls from the night sky, the universe may be reminding us that we have always been here, from the very first moment of existence. When the James Webb Space Telescope unfolded its vast mirror in the cold emptiness of space, humanity did not merely witness distant points of light. It saw the universe's own memory unfolding before its eyes. The light it captured was not the light of the present, but the whispers of the past, voices from the first stars, from the earliest galaxies born only a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. Every photon Webb gathers is a grain of memory, a fragment of a grand story written in energy, time, and space. It is often said that to understand the universe, we must learn to listen to it. But Webb does more than listen. It peers through the mists of time, through the dust of creation, seeking the beginning of everything. Before Webb, telescopes like Hubble could glimpse galaxies billions of light years away. Webb extended that vision deeper, farther, until it touched the moment when the first light was born, when the universe was still learning how to become itself. What it found was not what scientists expected. Instead of a few scattered galaxies, Webb revealed swarms of faint, compact ones, so densely packed that old cosmological models began to tremble. According to theory, the early universe was chaos, energy overflowing, matter not yet gathered into stars or galaxies. But Webb's findings told another story, one in which the cosmos seemed to grow up faster than we imagined, like a newborn gazing out with the eyes of an old soul. In Webb's images, some points of light appeared so faint they were thought to be noise. Yet when scientists analyzed their spectra, they realized these were the oldest galaxies ever seen, formed only 300 million years after the Big Bang. If the universe is 13.8 billion years old, that means we are looking at it when it was just 2% of its current age. And those tiny galaxies somehow contained an astonishing number of massive stars. Questions began to arise. How could such complex structures form so quickly? Could there be something wrong in our equations? Or does time itself flow differently in the early universe? One hypothesis emerged. Perhaps the expansion rate of the universe in its infancy was not the same as it is today. Perhaps time and space stretched and folded in rhythms we still don't fully understand. If so, the notions of early and late lose their meaning. A galaxy could form in the blink of a cosmic eye, yet to human perception, that blink spans hundreds of millions of years. The feeling of time itself might be nothing more than a product of perspective, of the rhythm the universe imposes on us. When Webb sent back its first image, the astronomy world fell silent. In that single frame, no larger than a grain of sand held at arm's length, thousands of galaxies crowded together. Each glowing dot was a world of its own, home to hundreds of billions of stars. Humanity had never felt so small, and yet never so close to the mystery of existence. In data centers across NASA, ESA, and observatories worldwide, thousands of scientists began to parse, compare, and decode every signal Webb returned. Each spectrum of light was a timestamp, an ancient melody written in hydrogen, helium, and stardust. They found surprises, metals in young galaxies that shouldn't exist yet, traces showing that massive stars had already lived and died, leaving remnants in their wake. That meant the cycles of stellar birth and death had begun mere hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang. From that data, a new idea took shape, the cosmic dawn. It was the age when the first darkness lifted, when the first stars ignited, and the universe saw light for the first time. Before that, there had only been the cosmic dark ages, a realm of invisible particles and scattered radiation. That dawn was not merely the birth of light, but of order, of structure, of beauty. And Webb, in a sense, became the first traveler into that dawn. It glimpsed the seeds of wonder, small, dense galaxies where light and matter were experimenting with the very idea of existence. From those seeds, everything we know, planets, life, thought, may have begun. Some say Webb is not just a telescope, but a time machine. It gives us the chance not only to see the past, but to feel the beginning. When humanity first saw the universe in this new form, we realized that everything around us, even ourselves, sprang from the same explosion, the same first light. In that profound gaze, perhaps the real question is no longer, how was the universe formed? But, why does it tell its story this way? Could it be that within each photon lies a tale of patience, a record of the universe's long effort to turn energy into matter, and matter into consciousness? When Canadian physicist Renée Hlozek saw Webb's first images, she said, "Maybe what we're looking at is the very root of curiosity itself." Her words spread through the scientific world like a quiet revelation. Every discovery not only expands the universe, it expands the human spirit. Those seeds of wonder are planted not only across the sky but within us. They make us question whether the universe truly had a beginning, or if it merely breathes, contracting, expanding, repeating itself in an eternal rhythm. Perhaps the Big Bang was not the first explosion, but one heartbeat in the cosmos's endless breath. And if that's true, then everything we see, from the light Webb captures to the thoughts in our own minds, may be echoes of the same ancient symphony. A symphony we are still learning to hear, note by note, vibration by vibration, in the infinite silence of space. When the first data from the James Webb Space Telescope was transmitted back to Earth, the scientific world nearly held its breath. Among the thousands of images, there appeared tiny, faint galaxies. Yet strangely, they already had well-formed structures. According to analysis, these light specks existed only a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, during an era when the universe was still shrouded in a fog of primordial matter, when light itself struggled to travel far. But a paradox emerged. These galaxies looked as though they had undergone billions of years of evolution. They were too bright, too dense, and too mature for a universe still in its infancy. That raised an unsettling question. If the universe was only a few 100 million years old, how could such complexity have already arisen? In such a short window, matter shouldn't have had time to coalesce. The first stars shouldn't have lived and died to produce heavy elements, and galaxies shouldn't yet host supermassive cores. Yet Webb's data revealed the opposite, as if time in the early universe had flowed faster, or perhaps didn't obey the rules we thought we understood. Physicists began calling this the Webb time paradox. Some argued we might have misjudged the distances, that those galaxies weren't truly so far away, but their light had been distorted by gravitational lensing, making them appear older than they were. But when the spectroscopic data were verified, the numbers held steady. This was indeed light from the cosmic dawn, from just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. And so, a crack opened in our understanding. Perhaps the universe doesn't move through time linearly, as we imagine. Perhaps past, present, and future don't unfold sequentially, but coexist within an intricate, overlapping structure. When Webb peers into the past, it may in fact be gazing at a reflection of the present, one layer of reality seen through the mirror of space. Some cosmologists have begun to wonder if time is not a flow, but a plane, where every moment exists simultaneously, differing only by perspective. Within that plane, Webb isn't rewinding to the past. It's shifting its angle of observation, revealing overlapping layers of time like the skins of an onion. In this sense, the universe has no clear beginning or end, only intersections, where overlapping moments create the illusion of progression. If you look closely at Webb's images of ancient galaxies, there's something strangely indescribable about them. They don't resemble the young, chaotic galaxies we expected, nor are they fully formed like modern ones. There is an eerie order in the chaos, as if the universe had done this before, as if it remembered how to create itself. From there, a haunting question arises. What if this isn't the first time the universe has formed? What if, before the Big Bang, there were other cycles, older universes that contracted, collapsed, and then expanded again? If so, Webb might not be looking only into the past of our current universe, but also catching traces of a previous one, a lingering memory from earlier breaths of cosmic existence. In theoretical physics, there is a concept called the cyclic universe. It suggests that the cosmos didn't explode from nothing, but undergoes an infinite cycle of expansion and contraction, like the lungs of a vast organism inhaling and exhaling. Each time, energy and information aren't completely lost. They leave traces, echoes within the fabric of space-time. If Webb is sensitive enough, perhaps it is detecting those very echoes. Curiously, Webb's data reveal not only the maturity of ancient galaxies, but also the presence of supermassive black holes at incredibly early epochs. A black hole of such scale should take billions of years to form, yet Webb found them only a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. If the universe had just formed, that should be impossible. But if time is not linear, if remnants of previous cycles survived, then perhaps these black holes are simply inheritances from an older cosmos, buried memories within space itself, now reawakened. A group of physicists at Princeton has called this the paradox of maturity. It's not merely a data discrepancy, it challenges our entire conception of time. If matter in the universe can age without time passing, perhaps time itself is not a universal law, but a local phenomenon. The universe might be capable of observing itself, reflecting itself through spatial dimensions, and in that self-reflection, the illusion of past and future is born. When we say Webb is looking into the past, that's only true in the human sense. On a broader scale, Webb may simply be receiving light the universe sent to itself, across billions of years of cosmic loops. Each photon captured by the telescope isn't just a fragment of memory. It's a message sent to oneself, written in the language of light. A theoretical physicist once wrote, "Perhaps in searching for the beginning, we are only discovering the reflection of our own gaze." That sentence echoes through the scientific world, not just for its beauty, but for the profound possibility it implies. That every human quest for knowledge, from watching the stars to decoding the universe, is a loop of awareness, where observer and observed merge into one. If the universe can truly observe itself, then Webb, as an instrument, is nothing less than the eye of the cosmos gazing back upon its own face. It doesn't merely uncover the past, it creates the future through the very act of seeing. Each time we receive a new image, the universe becomes more conscious of its own existence, as though awakening from a slumber lasting billions of years. In quantum philosophy, there is the observer effect. When something is observed, its nature changes. Perhaps the same applies on a cosmic scale. When Webb turns its gaze toward the past, it doesn't merely observe. It alters the way that past is recorded. Light ceases to be a neutral witness and becomes a bridge between perception and being. If so, the paradox Webb has uncovered is not just one of physics, it is one of philosophy. It compels us to ask, is there truly a boundary between the observer and the universe being observed? Or is that division merely an illusion, born from how we define before and after? Perhaps what we call the time paradox is simply the difference between how the universe exists and how we perceive it. Time, like a mirror, reflects both us and the cosmos, but never shows either in full. When Webb peers into the distant sky, it doesn't just see an expanding universe. It sees itself, it sees humanity, it sees the very act of looking reflected back across billions of light years. Perhaps, in the moment Webb captured its first image, the universe was looking back. And in that seemingly infinite distance, our gaze and its gaze met, overlapped, creating what we call a paradox. But in truth, it may be nothing more than the universe seeing itself in its own mirror, and we, the ones holding the mirror, are merely part of that reflection. The universe we live in is not merely an infinite space filled with stars. It is a vast, intricate structure where space and time weave together into a living fabric. Every particle, every beam of light, every motion does not simply exist in space. It leaves its imprint in time. Together, they stretch, bend, and distort reality itself. Space-time is not a silent stage upon which the cosmos unfolds. It is the cosmos, an ocean of existence where energy is the wave and consciousness is the observer. When the James Webb Space Telescope turns its golden eye toward the farthest reaches it can see, it is not only peering through space but also through history. Every photon it captures is a message that began its journey billions of years ago, a fragment of the universe's memory preserved in light. Distance in the cosmos is not merely a measurement, it is a projection of time. Every distant point of light in an image is not another place, but another moment, a slice of time frozen in illumination. When Webb records the light of a galaxy 13 billion light-years away, it is seeing the universe when it was only a few 100 million years old. That light set out before Earth existed, before the sun burned, before there were any eyes to see it. And now, after a journey lasting nearly the entire lifetime of the cosmos, that light touches Webb's mirrors, is transformed into data, into images, into understanding. In that instant, memory and the present become one. Physicists call this concept cosmic look-back time, the time of looking backward. It is the overlap between past and present, between light that has departed and the consciousness that receives it. Each step Webb takes deeper into space is a step humanity takes deeper into its own past. But this journey has a limit, a boundary where light itself can no longer reach, where time seems to hold its breath. At that frontier lies the surface of last scattering, the moment when the first light in the universe was released, about 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Before that, the universe was so dense and hot that photons could not move freely. Space was a blinding sea of fire, where light was trapped among particles. Only when the universe expanded and cooled could light finally escape, leaving behind the faint glow we call the cosmic microwave background. It is the wall of vision, the limit of time that Webb can touch only indirectly. As we near that limit, something strange begins to happen. Time, which we imagine as a flowing river, reveals another nature. It is no longer a current but a thick surface, where all possibilities coexist. On cosmic scales, time can be stretched, bent, or frozen by immense mass or energy. In powerful gravitational fields, time slows down, and beyond a certain threshold, such as the edge of a black hole or the first instant of the Big Bang, the ideas of before and after lose their meaning. If the universe is truly woven from space-time, then every event, from the motion of an electron to the birth of a galaxy, is but a vibration upon that fabric. These ripples spread, collide, and create the rhythm of the cosmos. When Webb sees distant light, it is witnessing those very ripples, sent from the dawn of everything, still propagating across the sea of reality. But the deeper Webb looks, the more it makes us ask, is this reality truly physical as we think? Or is it a synthesis of matter and mind, of what exists and what is perceived? If there were no observer, would light still exist as light, or would it remain a field of potential, awaiting interpretation by a conscious gaze? Some quantum physicists suggest that, at the deepest level, reality is not made of matter but of information. Matter, energy, and even space-time itself may be different expressions of a single foundation, a cosmic information network. If this is true, then consciousness is not outside the universe, but part of its structure, an invisible thread weaving meaning into light. At the smallest scale, particles do not exist as fixed points but as probabilities, as possibilities. Only when observation occurs does possibility become reality. Perhaps, on a cosmic scale, this principle still holds. When Webb peers into the past, it does not merely record it, it activates it, allowing the past to exist once more in the present. This leads to a daring thought. The past never dies, it merely waits to be seen. Like shining a light upon an ancient painting, time's dust falls away, and the image lives again. In a sense, Webb is that light, the instrument that awakens the sleeping memories of the universe. From this perspective, time is no longer a line but an infinite web of intersections. Each point of light captured by Webb is a knot in that web, where energy and consciousness meet. The universe does not flow, it oscillates. It breathes. Each breath is a cycle, each rhythm an age. If space-time is the fabric of reality, then we, living beings within it, are the tiny folds upon its surface. Every emotion, every thought, every moment slightly bends that fabric, and that bend, in turn, shapes us. Reality is not separate from the observer. It is a dialogue between what is seen and what is seeing. Perhaps this is what Webb reveals unintentionally, that our act of seeing the universe is not only an act of perception, but of creation. When ancient light becomes image, when it is understood, it becomes part of civilization, part of humanity's memory. In doing so, the universe itself becomes meaningful. In the silence of space, each photon is a word in the language of reality, and James Webb is its devoted translator. Yet light holds meaning only when someone reads it. Perhaps what makes the universe real is not its energy or matter, but its capacity to be seen, felt, and known. Reality, then, is woven not only of energy but of awareness. Light is the echo, mind is the listener. When that ancient light touches human consciousness, an invisible circuit is completed, from the dawn of time to the present moment. And within that connection, the universe becomes aware of itself. Perhaps the most profound thing Webb helps us realize is not the existence of ancient galaxies, but the nature of being itself. That in exploring the cosmos, we are, in truth, exploring the very fabric from which we are woven. That in every gaze outward, there is a quiet return inward, the universe looking back at us. Reality, in the end, may not be something to understand, but something to awaken to. And when we listen deeply enough, we may find that amid the vastness of space-time, everything is connected in a single pulse, the heartbeat of awareness, where light and meaning meet. In the silence of space, where light travels for billions of years just to touch a tiny lens, we come to a simple yet profound realization. When we gaze at the sky, we are not merely exploring the universe, but exploring ourselves. Every image returned by the Webb telescope is more than a portrait of distant galaxies. It is a reflection of human intellect, of our yearning to understand ourselves within the infinite tapestry of existence. Since the time when humans first lit fires on wild lands, we have looked up at the stars. That light has never changed, but its meaning has. With each step forward in knowledge, the sky has shifted from being the dwelling place of gods and myths to a map for scientific imagination, where we trace the origins of everything. When James Webb unfolded its great golden mirrors in space, it illuminated not only the cosmos, but also the depths of the human mind, where the same ancient question still echoes after millions of years. Who are we, and why are we here? Looking at Webb's images, we see faint streaks of light, blurry red dots, and immense clouds of gas giving birth to new stars. But if we pause for a moment, we realize that we are also looking at part of our own history. The atoms within us, carbon, oxygen, iron, were all forged in stars like these, scattered across space when they exploded. They drifted for billions of years, gathered, formed this planet, and eventually, us. So when we look at the sky, we are in truth looking back at our own origins. In that gaze lies both humility and pride. Humility, because we are but tiny specks of dust in the cosmic ocean, existing for a fleeting moment in infinite time. Yet pride as well, for in billions of years of cosmic solitude, only humanity has looked up and asked why. Our self-awareness, our insatiable curiosity, is what allows the universe to know itself. It is almost unbelievable that a fragile species on a small blue planet could send a delicate machine into space, 100,000 times farther than the moon, to glimpse the dawn of everything. That is not just a triumph of science. It is a testament to something deeply human, our relentless desire to transcend limits, not only of physics but of perception itself. Within every image Webb sends back, there is not only data, but emotion. Not only discovery, but faith that we can reach beyond ourselves. And yet, the farther we look outward, the more we are forced to confront a paradox. What we find in outer space often mirrors what lies within. As Webb peers deep into the universe, we see our own reflection. Chaotic yet ordered, cycles of birth and decay, radiant regions of inspiration surrounded by dark clouds of doubt. The cosmos becomes a perfect metaphor for the human mind, where ideas, memories, and feelings move like galaxies, orbiting around invisible centers of awareness. From this, we may understand that the journey to conquer the universe is never purely physical. It is philosophical, existential. Every measurement, every image, every theory is humanity's way of saying, we are still listening. And sometimes, in the quiet between radio signals from the void, we realize that the silence of the universe is not emptiness, but an invitation. A whisper that there is still so much left to understand, both beyond and within ourselves. When astronomers speak of ancient light, they are really speaking of the universe's memory. Just as in the human mind, memories never vanish. They only fade into the distance, dimmed and buried beneath the dust of the present. Webb allows us to see through that cosmic dust, to the moment when light first began. Meanwhile, human intellect, through its power of reflection, allows us to see through the fog of consciousness, to uncover the motives, desires, and fears that shaped the world we inhabit. Perhaps that is the true purpose of looking at the stars. Not to pinpoint where the universe began, but to understand that every beginning carries within it an unanswered question. When we seek the origin of the Big Bang, we are also seeking the origin of awareness. When we measure the distance between galaxies, we are also measuring the distance between reality and imagination, between what we know and what we believe. In a sense, the James Webb Telescope is not only humanity's eye turned outward, but also a mirror turned inward. The light from those distant galaxies, once filtered through layers of analysis and through the hands and minds of thousands of people, becomes the light of consciousness itself. It reminds us that science, art, religion, and philosophy are but different languages expressing the same truth, the awe of existence. And perhaps, in that quiet moment when we look up at the night sky, surrounded by billions of stars, the universe is looking back at us. Not with eyes, but through resonance, through the invisible thread that connects awareness to reality. For without someone to behold it, the universe would be nothing but meaningless darkness. It is the act of looking, wondering, and questioning that gives the cosmos meaning, and makes us an inseparable part of it. When we look at the universe is looking back through our eyes. Not a poetic metaphor, but a profound truth. For the light of the stars becomes light only when it is perceived. And in that moment, however small, however finite, humanity touches the eternal, the meaning of existence itself. There is a moment in science when numbers, models, and equations suddenly become insufficient. When theory ceases to be mere mathematics and turns into a metaphysical question. A question that echoes from the farthest point the James Webb Telescope can see. If the first light was born, what existed before it? Is there truly a beginning? Or is the universe simply continuing an endless cycle? An eternal breath that never stops? Some physicists call this the oscillating universe, a bold hypothesis suggesting that the Big Bang was not the beginning, but merely one of countless beats in the infinite flow of time. According to this idea, the universe wasn't born from nothingness, but from the ashes of a previous one, collapsing in a big crunch, then exploding again in a new Big Bang. Space and time expand, contract, and are born again, like the heartbeat of a vast cosmic being. Each cycle is its own universe, different perhaps in its physical constants, in the way matter organizes, or in the direction of the arrow of time itself. If that is true, then the universe we live in is not unique. It is only one rhythm in the endless symphony of existence. The light captured by Webb is not merely the remnant of an explosion. It is the echo of a previous breath. In the space between stars, the energy of dead cycles may still linger, a kind of physical memory left behind from past cosmic rebirths. Yet some scientists go even further. They suggest that no collapse or rebirth is needed for infinity to exist, because the universe might already be part of something larger. a multiverse, where each universe is a bubble floating in the eternal ocean of a higher dimensional space. In this model, these cosmic bubbles need not collide, nor share time or space. They simply coexist, suspended, each carrying its own laws of physics, its own initial conditions, its own story of life and matter. If James Webb could truly see to the edge of our universe, perhaps there the light would begin to fade. Not because there are no more stars, but because that light is dissolving into the space of another universe. Such a boundary, if it exists, would not be a wall, but an interference zone, where two realities touch, exchange energy, and then drift apart like droplets meeting in an ocean. Perhaps the tiny quantum fluctuations of the early Big Bang are traces of just such a contact between our universe and another. This is not merely a scientific hypothesis, it is a poem of thought. Because if the universe is part of that infinite sea, then our existence is not alone. We are not the only accident of creation, but one of countless expressions of possibility. And within that cosmic ocean, every existence is a story, a dream, a different pulse of the same vast consciousness. But consciousness here is not just a spiritual term. Many theoretical physicists today are beginning to speak of a link between consciousness and the nature of reality itself. As quantum mechanics reveals that observation can influence the state of a particle, one inevitable question arises. Could consciousness be a fundamental component of the universe, equal to energy and matter? Or in other words, might the universe be aware of itself through every form it creates, from the first photon to the human being asking this very question? If so, then the universe is not a cold, mechanical structure, but a living system, not in a biological sense, but in a cognitive one. Every time it explodes, expands, condenses into stars, creates life, and dissolves again, it is learning about itself. It experiments endlessly with ways for consciousness to exist in infinite forms. Somewhere in the multiverse, there might be another civilization sending out a telescope of its own, asking the same question about origins. And perhaps they are seeing our light as we see theirs at the same moment through overlapping layers of time. From this perspective, James Webb is not just a machine. It is an extension of the universe's own intelligence. Humans built it, but through it, the universe is once again observing itself, completing a cycle of awareness. A photon born 13 billion years ago travels through cold space, finally touching a golden mirror suspended in nothingness. When it is captured, analyzed, interpreted, it becomes data, then understanding, then a new question. In that instant, the circle of consciousness closes. The universe sees itself through human eyes. And thus, the grand hypothesis is not merely a theory about the structure of the cosmos. It is about the meaning of existence itself. That perhaps space, time, energy, and consciousness are different aspects of the same reality. A great being experiencing itself through endless forms, endless cycles, endless universes. In it, every galaxy is a cell, every life a thought, and every Big Bang a blink of its cosmic eye. Seen from that angle, the infinite is no longer terrifying. Because if the universe constantly renews itself, if consciousness is the foundation of being, then nothing is ever truly lost. Everything merely changes shape, like waves dissolving and rejoining in the ocean. Perhaps our existence today has happened before, in another cycle, another form, and will happen again countless times across countless universes. And within that endless rhythm, we are but a fleeting moment, yet an essential part of the whole. When James Webb's light pierces the night, we are not just seeing an expanding cosmos. We are witnessing life itself, consciousness itself, spreading, seeking to understand, seeking to return. Perhaps, in the end, every grand theory returns to the same simple truth. The universe is an infinite consciousness, endlessly exploring itself through the forms of time. And in the moment we realize this, we cease to be mere observers. We become part of that pulse, oscillating, existing, and knowing that we are here, within an infinity that is gazing back at itself. There is a moment in every journey of knowledge when the light of understanding grows so bright that it begins to dissolve the very shapes of what we thought we once grasped. James Webb, with its silent golden eyes adrift in the void, has seen what has never been seen before, and in doing so, has made everything we once believed certain seem fragile. In every image Webb sends back, there are not only ancient galaxies, but also tiny cracks in the wall of scientific certainty. Places where what was once solid begins to crumble, revealing another horizon. Farther, dimmer, yet full of promise. Before Webb, we had a clear story of the universe. The Big Bang marked the beginning. Time began to flow. Stars and galaxies gradually formed. Everything seemed in order, described neatly by equations and laws. But then Webb saw galaxies too bright, too old, appearing too early. It captured structures that theory said shouldn't yet exist. The light we thought was the first light turned out to be just one thread in a far more intricate tapestry. One where the very ideas of first and last blur into ambiguity. As scientists struggled to interpret the data, something strange happened. The more they analyzed, the more their understanding seemed to melt away like mist under sunlight. Each new model proposed to explain the findings only opened up new gaps. Every number that once felt precise was questioned by another set of data. And so, the foundation of certainty, the very thing science once leaned upon, began to tremble. Yet perhaps that isn't failure. For the universe, since its very beginning, was never made to be fully understood. It reveals itself just enough to make us take one more step. Like the light from ancient stars, knowledge travels through vast space, always lagging behind the universe's present. Each time we think we've reached a limit, that limit retreats even farther away. When Webb sent back its first image of a crimson, ghostly galaxy, humanity felt a deeper truth. Understanding is not a destination but an unending journey through doubt. True wisdom begins not when we hold on, but when we let go. The collapse of certainty doesn't happen only in science. It happens within each of us. For we are made of the same matter, the same light, and bound by the same limits. When we think we understand the world changes. When we think we know who we are, that very belief stops us from listening. And then life must create a disturbance. A crisis, a loss, something inexplicable, to remind us that real knowledge lies not in certainty, but in the unknown. James Webb is merely continuing what humanity has always done, gazing into the dark and seeking meaning. But this time, the darkness is not out there. It is within the boundaries of our own perception. The universe is wider than any theory, more complex than any model, and quieter than any explanation. Webb doesn't just show us the first stars. It shows us that some things are unseen, not because they are too far away, but because their light was never meant to reach the place where we stand. There is a beautiful paradox in that. The deeper we look, the smaller we become. Yet within that smallness lies something sacred, humility before the infinite. When an astronomer looks at a Webb image, he doesn't just see data, he sees the fragility of human understanding. A single faint dot might be a galaxy containing hundreds of billions of stars. And among those billions of galaxies, perhaps only one tiny world is trying to understand them all, and that world is us. In the lab, amid screens of spectral lines and noisy data, there are moments when scientists simply fall silent. Not because they don't understand, but because they do. Webb hasn't broken the Big Bang model, but it has shaken the way we think about beginnings. It hasn't denied physics, but it reminds us that physics is only a temporary language for the indescribable. Perhaps in some distant future, another telescope will look even deeper, even clearer. And when it does, it too will render today's theories obsolete. But that is the very nature of knowledge. It doesn't try to build castles on sand. It accepts that the shoreline is always changing with the tide. Only the search itself endures. When Webb's screen transmits its final image of the day, a faint smear of light in the darkness, the data fades into shadow, like the last breath of light dissolving into night. And somewhere, someone quietly looks out the window, wondering, Could everything we know be just an illusion, woven by our need to understand? Perhaps there is nothing to fear in collapse. Only layers of certainty falling away, revealing a vaster truth beneath, like a shattered mirror reflecting more of reality than before. Maybe the fall of certainty is not the end of knowledge, but the beginning of wisdom, when we no longer need to know but simply to see, to feel, and to be present with what is. And so, amid the echoes of space, as light fades and data dissolves, we realize it is within the limits of knowledge that true intelligence begins to breathe. There are rare moments in life when it feels as if time stops. An afternoon when sunlight filters through the leaves, the sounds of the world fade away, and every motion seems to slow. In that moment, there is no past, no future, only a silent, absolute presence with no name. That feeling passes like a breath, yet within it, we touch something the universe might still keep in its heart. A timeless instant where time stands still. When the James Webb Telescope looks toward the farthest edges of the cosmos, where light has traveled for tens of billions of years to reach us, it is gazing into images of a past so distant that the realities it records no longer exist. Those stars may have died, those galaxies may have changed, but their light keeps flowing, touching us like a belated message. In that gaze, time seems to fold upon itself, pulling the past closer to the present. The moment we see is the moment the past is reborn. And then, a quiet question arises. If light can do that, does time ever truly flow? Perhaps time is merely the way human consciousness arranges what it cannot comprehend. We call what has happened the past, what has yet to come the future, and what we're experiencing the present. But Webb, in its observation of the universe, unsettles that neat division. For in infinite space, there is no clear beginning or end. Light moves, but it doesn't age as we imagine. It only passes through expanding layers of space, stretched and dimmed, yet its pure essence of energy remains. So perhaps time doesn't flow. It expands, like a silent ocean spreading endlessly outward. Physicists once said that space and time are inseparable, woven into a single fabric curved by the weight of matter. But if we look deeper, we might see that human consciousness is also part of that fabric. When we think of now, we are, in fact, weaving a tiny thread into the tapestry of space-time, bound to the entire cosmos. On the human scale, we call it a moment. On the cosmic scale, it might be eternity. Some theories suggest that near the edge of a black hole, time nearly stops. A single second there could stretch into millions of years elsewhere. To an outside observer, an object falling into a black hole seems to freeze at the threshold, fading, slowing, and then disappearing. Yet for the object itself, it continues to fall, moving through a time that no one else can perceive. Webb cannot see through black holes, but its data reveals that the universe is full of such places, regions where time bends, and the very notion of flow loses meaning. If we could stand at the edge of such a space, where all motion ceases, where light dissolves into perfect darkness, perhaps we would no longer feel separate. There would be no observer and universe, only a total merging, consciousness and space becoming one. Like a drop of water returning to the ocean, every distinction would fade away. In that silence, there would be no time, only a deep, unmeasurable presence, a life not defined by motion, but by being. In daily life, we are pulled along by the constant current of time. Schedules, plans, memories, expectations, an endless sequence of movement. But sometimes, when we pause long enough, when the mind stops chasing after anything, time stops with us. Not because the world has ceased to move, but because we have stopped counting. Then we see that nothing has ever truly passed. Trees still grow, stars still shine, but from within stillness, everything simply is, simultaneous, eternal. This may sound like philosophy, but it is also what quantum physics whispers. All possibilities exist at once. Time is not a line, it is a structure where every point exists simultaneously. What we call the present is only the slice that consciousness is perceiving. When Webb looks into the farthest depths, it isn't looking into the past. It is observing another layer of the same reality. And perhaps, somewhere out there, another being is looking up at its sky, seeing the light from our stars, believing they too are looking into the past. Perhaps time is only an illusion of perception. If so, eternity isn't at the end of the road. It's right here, in this very moment as we read, listen, breathe, and feel. Everything that has ever happened and will ever happen converges at an invisible point, the point we call now. If we are still enough, we can sense it. A silent current surrounding us, yet perfectly still. Webb, in its journey to find the most distant beginnings, may have touched the boundary of time itself, where before and after lose all meaning. And at that frontier, perhaps there is nothing left to know, only to see. Not with eyes, but with a kind of perception beyond measurement. The universe ceases to be something to explain, and becomes something to dissolve into. When time stops, nothing is lost. On the contrary, everything becomes whole. There is no past to regret, no future to fear, only the present, where all possibilities already exist. Perhaps that is the true nature of the cosmos. Not to move forward, not to pass, but simply to be infinite and boundless. And when we realize this, something strange happens. All fear fades, all questions grow light. We no longer seek eternity among distant stars, for it already lives in every breath we take. When time stops, we understand. Eternity has never left us. It has only waited for us to become still enough to realize we have been within it all along. When the first light of the universe touched the golden mirror of James Webb, it wasn't just physical data. It was an echo from the dawn of time. Every photon that reaches us after tens of billions of years carries with it the memory of the first stars, of dust and gas, of the primal vibrations from which everything was born. As we gaze upon those rays of light, it feels as though we're reading the universe's first page. But in truth, we're listening to the echo of an ancient, endless question. Why is there something rather than nothing? That question, though never written anywhere, has burned quietly in the human heart since the very beginning. From the moment the first humans looked up at the glittering points of light in the night, we have carried wonder within us. Not just curiosity about the stars, but astonishment at their very existence. Why are we here? Why is there light? And why is there a universe in which such questions can even be asked? Webb does not answer those questions. Cannot. Yet in its silence, in the images it sends back, we hear our own voice. Each image does more than show the universe. It reflects the human soul. A species capable of reflection, of wonder, of seeking meaning within the infinite. When we speak of meaning, we're not talking about equations or laws. We speak of that which makes us pause, of the strange, stirring feeling we get when we see a Webb image, even though we know it's only ancient light. Because somehow, deep down, we sense that there's something familiar in those glowing dots. Perhaps it's because we are made of the same stuff. The carbon in our bodies was once the dust of a dead star. The iron in our blood was forged in the heart of a supernova. When we look up at the sky, we are not merely observing, we are remembering. Maybe that is the echo of meaning, not something that comes from elsewhere, but from the resonance between humanity and the cosmos. The universe does not speak, yet we hear it. Not with ears, but with a deep awareness. When Webb captures images of tiny, dense galaxies, we don't just see matter swirling. We see a story of order and chaos, of life and decay, of endless cycles of creation. Each image is a silent poem, and we are its translators through emotion. From a scientific standpoint, Webb is only an instrument of measurement. But to humanity, it is a mirror that reflects not faces, but spirit, the spirit of the being that built it. In that reflection, we see our entire journey. From kindling fire in caves to sending a vast machine adrift in the void, pointing its mirror toward the furthest edge of imagination. The evolution of technology and knowledge is but an expression of a deeper instinct, the desire to understand ourselves. The strange thing is, the more we understand the universe, the smaller we feel. Yet within that smallness lies another kind of greatness, great not in power, but in awareness. A speck of dust that can look up and ask where it came from, that alone makes the universe meaningful. For if there were no one to perceive beauty, would beauty exist? If there were no one to hear, would the echo of the Big Bang still resound? Perhaps meaning arises only when there is someone to listen. And that is what makes Webb so different. It is not just an eye, it is the extension of human consciousness into space. Every photon it collects, every bit of data it records, becomes part of our story. When Webb sees galaxies from the dawn of time, we are also witnessing our own beginnings. Not as a species, but as curiosity itself looking into a mirror. Some say that meaning is something humans impose upon the world, that it doesn't exist on its own. But if that's true, then the act of imposing meaning is itself miraculous. For in a cold, indifferent cosmos, a creature arose that could call it beautiful, could question it, could love it. Doesn't that, in itself, prove a form of meaning? Webb doesn't create meaning. It simply helps us realize that meaning was there all along, waiting to be reflected. From Earth, as we gaze at the night sky, the light of billions of stars falls upon our retinas. Some of those stars died millions of years ago, yet their light remains, a greeting from the past. And in that light we see a strange image. Ourselves looking, listening, feeling. Perhaps the universe is not only expanding through space, but also through awareness, and we are the means by which it comes to know itself. When Webb peers into the farthest reaches, it is not merely searching for where the universe began. It is listening for the echo of that first question. Why is there something? Maybe that question will never be answered. For it is precisely within the absence of an answer that meaning is born. If we understood everything, the universe would fall silent. But because we do not, it continues to speak. When light from the edge of the cosmos finally touches Earth, it completes not just a 13.8 billion year journey, but a circle of consciousness, from the first explosion to a being capable of reflecting upon it. The universe gave birth to light, light gave birth to life, and life now turns back to look at the light. In that moment, question and answer become one. Perhaps the boundary of time, of knowledge, of all we can ever know, is not at the end of the universe, but at the point where the question begins. For that question, the impulse to know, to understand, to reach beyond beats like the true heart of the universe within us. And as Webb drifts silently through the void, still watching, still listening, it carries not only the hope of science, but humanity's quiet faith that meaning is not something we find at the end of the road. It is the echo that hums within every step we take. For sometimes, the most powerful thing we have ever created is not a telescope, but the ability to ask. And in the silence of the cosmos, perhaps that is the only sound that still endures.